All right, that was definitely longer than 30 seconds, but I appreciate the patience again. I think we're ready to get going. So first of all, welcome everybody. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Kirk Langford, and I am the Outbound Coordinator for Rotary District 6330's Youth Exchange Program. That's a big mouthful. What it basically means is that this Rotary District, which stretches way up into kind of Tobermory, down into the States a little bit, kind of Sarnia area, and then follows the water on Lake Huron, as well as kind of goes east. If you're going east, you're thinking kind of Stratford. Okay, that's our Rotary district. There are about 60 Rotary clubs in that district, and I am the person who manages the outbound students, which are students like you that are from this area that want to go abroad. Okay, I'm the person that helps manage your applications and your training and everything like that. So that's why you're dealing with me. I recognize some of you from the info night that we had in I believe that was August. It feels like a long time ago, but I think it was just August. So anyway, you might have recognized me from before. We also have Ross Barnett on the screen as well. He just waved. So Ross Barnett is the district chair. So even though these are volunteer positions, he's basically like my boss. He's the one that oversees the youth exchange program for the entire district. And I, again, manage the outbound portion. We also have people who manage the inbound portion, which are students going from other countries coming to this district here in Canada and the US. All right, so we're gonna move forward. There's kind of two ways we can do this. If anybody, what I'd like to do is just start off with questions. And then I think normally what will happen is the questions will kind of evolve into giving some bigger explanations of some stuff. If there are no immediate questions right off the bat, then I can go into some kind of overview stuff that will help you. But I would like to start with questions, but the one announcement I want to make before we go into individual questions is this. When I got so what happens is the Rotary Club that you apply to, they got your preliminary application, and then they interview you. And then I find out they interviewed you and they want to move forward with you as a candidate. So then I sent you all that awesome email. I sent you 2 emails. I sent one with a link to the online portion of the application. And I sent you a second one that had what's called the supplemental forms and documents, as well as a whole chunk of information. One of the pieces of information that's really important is what's called the CSRYE, that just stands for Central States Rotary Youth Exchange, Outbound Application Instructions. It's a Google Doc, so you don't have to print it. It's not a PDF. You just click the link and it opens in a browser. That document is basically your Bible from now until your application is complete. We have combed through it to make sure that it's super helpful, and it kind of walks you through every single step of filling out your application, both the online portion and the supplemental forms, which is the PDF, which you print off and work from there. So I know what happens is a lot of people see the document, they open it, it's 12 pages, and they're like, oh, I'll get to that later. But I can tell you right now, the best, smartest thing you can do, probably a lot of your teachers tell you this, when you get a test, don't just start answering the first question. Read through the whole test first, make sure you understand it and don't have any big questions, then go back to page 1 and start. Heather Offord is here. She's a teacher. Heather, can I get a thumbs up if you would recommend that strategy? Read through everything first and then go back and make sure it all makes sense before you start. I can't recommend this strategy enough for this application. It is intense. There's a lot to it. Raise your hand if you think this is a pretty intense application. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we got parents agreeing too. So the best, smartest piece of advice I can give you, read through the entire application, okay? Read through this entire 12-page document, and ask yourself, is there anything that didn't make any sense to me once I kind of looked at the instructions and looked at the application? And that's going to be where the majority of your questions come from. But I can tell you, this instruction document will answer about 80%, maybe a bit more of your questions. So my biggest piece of advice already is read that document with a fine-tooth comb, print it off and kind of do check marks, because the way we've built most of it is, hey, on this page, did you do this? On this page, did you remember to do this? Because we kind of know through the years what are the things that students tend to kind of miss the most or forget about. Okay, and so that's sort of how we built this form. All right, and that's the instruction, not the form rather, but the instruction. So that's my first piece of advice. Now, with that being said, I'll open up the floor to any questions that you folks have about the application. So what you can do, you can either unmute yourself or you can pop a question into the chat. Either way is fine. One thing I am going to try to ask is for our students, you're about to potentially be leaving your parents for a whole year. Gone, goodbye, see you later. Pretty exciting. But what that means is that there's a lot of independence that goes with that. So what I'd like to see is if you have questions, I'd like to see the student asking the questions as much as possible. So start taking that step forward already with, hey, here's my question. Here's what I want to know. All right. So I'm going to stop talking for once, and I want to hear from you. Ross is shocked because that doesn't happen very often. So I see already that Katie has a question. So Katie, if you'd like to unmute yourself and start us off.
Yeah, we didn't receive the application form online, but we did receive the supplemental form PDF thing.
Okay, you haven't received it yet. That's not good. First question, have you checked your junk or spam folder?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because I sent it to the same address that I send the other email to. So let me make a note of that and I'll resend the CSRYE application. Good. Okay, thanks for letting me know, Katie.
Thank you.
The good news is that that's the easier part of the application. That's just the online portion. So that's actually quicker and easier than what you're currently working on, which is the supplemental forms. Okay. All right, I made a note there. Next question. And if we get a lull in the questions, I can actually check it right while we're here together. I believe that's Grace. Hey, Grace.
Hi. I just had a question about passports, since I know there's been like a lot of pushback with passports not getting to people quick enough. What would the situation be with that? Like if we didn't have them fully like sent back to us, but like renewed, because I did renew my passport. It was like, I just want to know how that was going to go over.
Yeah. So you've got lots of time. I mean, in a perfect world, you would have it kind of right now when you apply, but they don't need it much before probably January. So you can go ahead and apply for early renewal if you need to. If you need a letter for that early renewal, let us know and we can get you the letter that explains why you're looking for an early renewal. But otherwise, yeah, you can go ahead and apply for it. And as long as you keep us in the loop, so you say, hey, Kirk, I reapplied today. They gave me this estimate in terms of time frame. Just let me know what that looks like and keep me in the loop so that when you get it, I know, and then I can get it to who it needs to get to. But that's no problem at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. And I'm just going to take a quick pause here and ask Katie. Katie, I'm going to put your email in the chat, the one that I have for you, because I've got the window open to resend your application. I'm going to send that to you. Double check that I've got the right address. Okay. And if I do, then I will send that off so that you can hopefully get it right while we're chatting today. Okay.
Friday.
Perfect. Perfect. So, okay. Next question. I see here. Charlize has a question. Yeah, Charlize, go ahead. And I see here you're saying you're sick, so your mom's going to talk for you. That's no problem. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, she's lost her voice. There she is, wave.
Hello, hi, Katie. Or sorry, not Katie, Charlize, sorry. I had Katie on my mind because I was checking her email address.
I don't know, it's kind of good she lost her voice for a little bit.
My mom always said the same thing. I don't get it.
Anyway, what we wanted to ask, or well, Charlize wanted to ask, is for the host families, and you're asking for 4 host families. And we're kind of asking, people are kind of, like, do I totally have to commit?
No, not at all.
Because if we ask them and they say, okay, well, we might, is that what you're looking for? But they're worried.
Great question. So great question there. No commitment at all. This is a no commitment and no salesperson will visit. No, all this. So it's 3 families, and what we're looking for is people who may potentially be interested. If they say, oh yeah, I guess we thought about that once. Okay, cool. There's no commitment at all. What will happen is your YEO, so your youth exchange officer, once I get this from them, I give it to them. So in your case, Charlize, you're with the King Cardin Club, is that right? Yeah. So I would send your form to Marika. Marika would contact each of those families and say, hey, Charlize gave your name as someone who might be potentially interested in hosting. Talk to me about that. And if they go, yeah, I felt bad. Charlize was asking if we could put our name, but realistically, we don't want some foreign kid in our house. Like, come on. Okay, no problem. Off the list. Not going to bug you again. If it's more like, yeah, we've thought about it, but our kids are kind of younger. What do you think of that? We have that conversation. We let them know the pros and cons. Or we might call and they go, oh my God, send them over tomorrow. We can't wait. Cool. Awesome. But there's absolutely no commitment, no pressure. We just call you to find out what's your interest level. And just to make sure that it's all kosher. And then if you're interested, we move forward with next steps, which include like a screening process and that, just to make sure it's the right fit, and that everything's good to go. Yeah. So no commitment there at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I have time for one more question?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, before I didn't want to take from anybody else.
No, that's okay.
So your part of the application where
Yeah.
you need to, is it you that needs to sign? Or is it Marika that signs?
It's not me. It'll be Marika who signs for what's called the Youth Exchange Officer, or the YEO. And this is helpful to everybody. So your YEO is the person from your club that's usually been connecting with you. Okay. So I'm trying to think of specifically, I think Katie, for yours is going to be Donna Rudell, for example. She's your YEO. Hannah, yours is going to be Sue Bandine, right? Who's here on this call. Ava, can you remind me which club you're connected with? Oh, Heather. Perfect. So there you go. You've got it right there. So Heather's going to be your contact. Okay. Your YEO, or Youth Exchange Officer. Grace, I'm your Youth Exchange Officer. Okay. The other person is the district chair, and that's actually Ross. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
Ross's contact information is on the form, or the Google Doc that I talked about. Okay. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pop the Google Doc link in the chat again, just so that in case you don't already have it open, you can just open it right now as we're chatting. I think that's a helpful thing to do. So we're going to pop that in there. And so you'll see, if you scroll down a fair bit, I believe it's page 9, but it could be wrong. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, actually, I'm going to quickly share my screen as well, so that you can kind of see exactly what I'm talking about. So let me know, can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Awesome. Okay. So you'll see this is the form I was talking about, or rather the instruction document that I was talking about. And you'll see here, of course, I just have to find Ross's number. Contact info. Oops, let me just find the right spot. There it is. Okay, so you'll see here sponsor, club, and district endorsement. I'll make that a little bit bigger because I know that's kind of small. So we're on page 7, and you'll see Ross Barnett's contact info. It kind of bleeds into 2 pages, but all of his contact info that you need for the district chair portion is right there. You'll also notice, and this was one of the points I was going to make, so good thing you brought it up there, Charlize and Mom, is that he needs to sign your form. But you don't have to worry about making a day trip to Goderich to have him do that, unless you really just want to make a day trip to Goderich. He can sign that at the interview conference. So you can fill out all of his information, and you can leave the signature and the date blank, and he will sign it at the interview conference.
Or, you could make a date and take me out for a coffee.
I've done that before. Would not recommend. Just kidding. No, Ross is great. And Goderich is beautiful. So, I mean, it's a win-win, right? Anyway, yeah, so he will sign that there. Your YEO should be signing it before you come to the interview conference, but the district chair, Ross, can sign at the conference. And which is, by conference, I mean the interviews on November 5th and 12th.
Kirk.
Yep.
For the part that they're filling my stuff in, is the +1 required on the phone number?
Yeah, good point. Let's throw that in just to be safe. They've been less and less strict about the +1s than in the past. I even get conflicting information now about whether the online form has to have it versus supplemental, but by and large, you should be including the +1 on the supplemental form. So yeah, thanks, Ross.
Yeah, I don't think the online allows it.
Yeah, in parts it does, because it has.
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, that's a little bit all over.
Because they updated some parts and not others.
Yeah. So, okay, awesome. Charlize and Mom, thank you for those good questions. Did you have any other questions while I was gonna say I'm muted, but you're already muted again, but.
No.
No, okay. Awesome, good questions. Anybody else? I think I saw that Will had a question in the chat. Just let me open that again. My school doesn't do any rankings. How should I answer that question on the online portion? Yeah, well, so what I did for that, that's a unique scenario. I've never run into that. So what I did is I've reached out to our district committee to get some advice on that. And we're still waiting on kind of what the best practice is. My thought is that we're just going to have to look at your grades 7 and 8 report cards and kind of make a judgment call. That's my guess of what we're going to have to do. But I will get back to you with a more firm answer once I hear back from the district committee on what their suggestion is for that. And if the district committee can't come to a decision, we as a district are part of what's called Central States Rotary Youth Exchange, okay? And that is an organization of 20 Rotary districts in Ontario and parts of the US. And so if we can't find consensus, if we can't come to an idea of what makes the most sense, I can reach out to kind of the next level up, which is Central States, and say, hey, this is our situation. What do you folks think? So I've reached out to our district committee, waiting to hear back. When I hear back, or if I need to go to Central States, I'll let you know, and then I'll be able to have an answer for you. But is anybody else in that particular predicament like Will is, where they can't give a school ranking? If you're in grade 10, you should be okay. Yeah, Charlize, go ahead.
Oh, unmute. Oh, yeah, her school says they don't do it either. They kind of guesstimated. So,
That's okay.
So 20, they said the 20%. So
Yeah, that's if it says top
that's what
20%, that's cool. That's fine.
yeah, that's what they guesstimated, and then that was what we
That's
did.
okay. Yeah, it would just be that so what will happen when they do something like top 20% is that the Central States Outbound coordinator, who's kind of the next level up for me, I think she'll just look and make sure that makes sense. So if you're getting all 50, she's going to go all 50s and you're in the top 20%. I highly doubt that. But if all of her marks are, in the 80s or 90s, she'll go, yeah, that makes sense. That's clearly top 20%, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Ross, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is a holdover from the American side of stuff, because we're a cross-border district where they actually require a GPA, and we don't do that. So the best we could come up with was in the top 25% or whatever. I can't remember what we are now, top something.
Yeah.
So
some schools in the area do manage to get an actual ranking out of a number of students, which I got to imagine is a heck of a load of work for either some guidance counselor or secretary or VP. But anyway. Yeah. Okay. So there's Will's question. And Will, let me know in the chat if that answers your question for the time being, just to make sure I know you heard it and everything. Okay, perfect. All right. Any other burning questions at the moment? Yeah, Ava.
I was just wondering when it all needs to be done by, just like all the forms. I don't know if that was already said, but.
Yeah, so let me pop up to the top page here. It wasn't said on here, but it is in your form. So you'll see here the online application, okay, is October 25th. Okay, that's the 10 mini sections where it's like about me, pictures of people, the 2 letters. So me and my family, all of that is October 25th, everything you're filling out online. The supplemental forms, which is the PDF, as well as the documents, which is like your passport, your transcripts, and your birth certificate, okay, that is November 1st. All right, and when that says, so for the online application, when we talk about deadlines, that's when you have to submit it. So you actually click submit on the form when you're ready to submit it. For the supplemental forms and documents, this is when I need to get a copy of those PDFs. Okay, you don't need to mail those to me yet. Okay, you need to email me a copy, and you'll see if we scroll down a little further. Okay, it actually talks about, okay, you think you're done? Here's what you need to do. Okay, so just let me find that here. There we go. So submitting your supplemental forms and documents to the Outbound coordinator. All right, now while we're on this note, grab your pen and paper. This is a part that confuses a lot of people. You're not going to mail me anything until I tell you to mail me stuff. I know my address is down at the bottom, but don't mail me anything until you get the okay from me saying, yep, pop them in the mail, or bring them with you to the interview conference. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to scan them all to me. So when you've been to your doctor and you've been to the dentist and you've done all that stuff and you think everything's perfect, you scan it and you send it to me. Okay, and then I can review it digitally, electronically, and give you feedback and let you know if anything needs to be changed or corrected or anything like that. Hello. My niece just came in for a quick little visit. We just got some kitties a couple of weeks ago, and she is obsessed. So she comes in and she's always like, kitties. So she just came in to say hi because she's hanging out with kitties. Scully and Hitchcock, if you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, is what we named them. Anyway, sorry. So you'll scan it to me. I'll give you feedback. If I say, yep, it's perfect, good to go, then you don't need to make any more changes to that form. If I give you changes you need to make, you go ahead and make those changes. And then in any case, you'll bring your paper copies of your forms to the interview conference with you. So that if they're perfect, you leave me with a copy. Perfect, great, good to go. If they're not perfect, we can at least review them in person, and I can give you some feedback in person because sometimes that's quicker than email. Okay, so don't mail me anything. Don't spend money on courier or anything until I say, yep, perfect, great. But in a perfect world, if you notice the deadline, November 1st, that means you'll have it all ready to go by November 1st, so that when you come to the interview conference anyway, you can just bring them to me in person. You don't have to courier them to me after. Okay. And I will, there was one other thing I was going to mention. I don't remember what it was. Can't remember, but oh, that was the other thing. Sorry. Do not mail me your birth certificate or your passport or your original transcripts. You do not need to mail those at all. I do not want your passport in my house. I don't need your original birth certificate. I will only ever deal with a photocopy or like a scanned copy of those 3 documents. So again, your transcripts, your passport, and your birth certificate, keep those with you. I don't need a copy of those. Sorry, I don't need a physical copy. I just need a scanned copy of those, okay? It's just your medical form, your dental, your endorsement, the rules. Those are the pieces that I'll get a paper copy of at some point. All right. So Ava, great question. Okay. Any other follow up to that, Ava, or does that answer that question?
That's good. Thank you.
I'm going to quiz you. What are the due dates?
Oh, me. October 25th for online, and then November 1st for the forms that are in person.
Perfect. Perfect. One other side note I'll add just before we get to Charlize's question in the chat, and Linda and Andrew have a question. If you're filling out a form, okay, and you're like 2/3 of the way filled out, but you want my feedback, you're like, I'm not sure if this is right, and I don't really want to go to all the work of getting everything done just to find out it's wrong, shoot it to me. Scan it to, like, take a picture or scan it, a clear picture, please. Send it to me and be like, hey, Kirk, is this going right? Am I doing this right? You know, I'm about to go to my doctor and I want to make sure it's not messed up, or I'm about to meet my YEO, and once we get all those signatures on there, I really don't want to have to redo it. Shoot it to me, okay? And I can give you feedback right then and there. You can even text it to me. I mean, an email is preferable, but if you're in a pinch, you could even take a picture, text that picture to me and be like, is this okay? I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I mean, I do work a 9-to-5 job, so I won't always be able to get back to you during that time, but I'll try my best. And I can give you feedback. So you don't have to wait till the form is completely done. If there's specific parts you have questions about, or if you're like, hey, I really don't want to go through getting all these people to sign it, only to find out that something was wrong. Because unfortunately, we do have to be quite picky with these forms. They're being sent all over the world to some governments and some people that are very sticky when it comes to details and bureaucracy. So we do have to make sure, literally, that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. So we do get pretty picky. And unfortunately, if you come with a medical form, even if you've been to your doctor twice, it's all wrong. I'm going to have to make you redo it and go back to your doctor. And I really want to avoid that if I can. But that comes from checking in with me, but also making sure you follow these instructions so that hopefully doesn't happen. And now we'll move over to Charlize's question, and then Linda and Andrea. So Charlize was, who interviews us? You or someone else or several people? I will not be interviewing any of you because I've worked with you so much for this process. It's a bit of a conflict of interest. And I'll also be meeting with you the day of the interviews to go over your applications and kind of fill you in on stuff. So I won't be interviewing you. It will be a panel of 3 Rotarians from our district mostly, as well as potentially 2 other districts that we work with, and a Rotex or a rebound. And that's someone who has been on exchange and has recently come back. So they've got very relevant, firsthand experience of what it takes to be a successful exchange student. So that's who's going to be interviewing you, as a panel of 4 people, and we will be interviewing both you and your parents or guardians. And the interview will take about an hour. Okay. And we say this the day of the interviews, but the first thing we're going to tell you, just be yourself. It's not so much, we already know from your application and being interviewed at the club level that you're great people, that you're top achievers, that you're great candidates. So we're not trying to make sure you're, the best candidate in the world. We're trying to make sure that you're the right fit for the program and that the program is the right fit for you. I mean, as you can imagine, parents, we don't want to send your son or daughter away if we don't think it's the right thing for them, if we don't think it's going to be a healthy, positive experience for them. So we're really just trying to make sure that it's a good fit. Okay, so I can say don't get nervous, but I feel like, yeah, nice try, tell me not to get nervous, but rather just be yourself, be honest when you answer the questions. It goes a lot smoother that way because we're just trying to get a sense of who you are. And over to Linda and Andrea. Sorry, and by that I mean Linda, because she's Andrea's mom. There you go.
Yes, Andrea's at work, so she can't be here. So thankfully it's being recorded.
Yes.
My question was, like, on the supplemental forms, or the question we had was, there's a supplemental form for the doctor and the dentist, but there wasn't a form for the optometrist. And they mentioned, like, in somewhere it talks about the optometrist visit.
Okay, well that could be something like in the instructions you're saying, Linda, that it lists something about the optometrist.
Yeah, in the instructions it talks about optometrist visit, okay. But then there's like a form for the doctor and a form for the dentist.
Yeah, so you're right. There is no optometrist visit. There used to be a separate form. So this might just be that I didn't catch that part when I updated the form this year or updated the instructions. There used to be a page that you would include your eyeglass prescription if you had one. Now you don't have to include that. They only say to include it, like bring it with you on exchange. So if you needed to get contacts or glasses. So let me check into that. But yeah, you don't have an optometrist form. You're good for that. It's just the medical, which does speak to whether or not you have contact lenses. There is a spot on there for that. But yeah, don't worry about an optometry visit at all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
And I have to make a note just to check that. Okay. And okay, any other questions? Oh, I see a chat message. Are the interview questions sort of the same as the first interview? I'm not going to really give too much away about the interview. Really, again, it's us getting to know kind of what you're like, kind of how you handle different situations. And the other part is making sure that you want to go on exchange for the right reasons. We don't want someone going on exchange because they see it as, oh, if they can just drop me off in Brussels, then I can get all over Europe for the next year. This is going to be great. My one-way ticket to touring around the year. You know, we want people that are in it for the right reasons, that are in it for a cultural experience, that are excited to live with a host family and that sort of thing. So we're really trying to make sure that, again, it's the right fit. You're in it for the right reasons, that your family supports the decision. And so the questions are based around that. And then of course there is some sort of what would you do in this situation type stuff. You know, and we're not looking for you to know what a Finnish person would do in this situation or a Swedish person or, you know, we're looking to how might you handle this? What are your problem solving skills like and things like that? Ross, do you want to add anything? I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't want to give anything away, but.
No. You covered it all. No, honestly, it's like an hour of pure torture. It's fun.
Listen, I did it 17 years ago and I'm still here to tell the tale. Sue did it a few more years ago than that and she's around to tell the tale. So it's not as bad as Ross might make it sound.
I mean, Kirk had hair at the time, but
that's true. That's very true. Yeah. So there are consequences, but when do you think we'll find out where the interview will be held? Oh, good question, Grace. We actually just confirmed that. It is going to be at the Lambeth United Church. So I'll send out that address and that contact information or the address and stuff, but it'll be at the Lambeth United Church, which is just south of London.
Grace had her hand up for a second there.
Yeah.
Oh, Grace had her hand up? I didn't see that. Sorry, I saw her question in the chat, but I wasn't sure. Is that the same question you had, Grace?
Can you clear the screen so we can see faces, Kirk?
Oh yeah, sure. Yep. I often forget it's showing, as you can tell. All right. Any other questions?
I just want to add something, Kirk, if I may.
Please, yeah.
For the details on the day of November 5th, you will get all of that information from your YEO, where and when you come. Generally, the London area students are in the morning and the further distance students will be in the afternoon, but you will get that. But the cool thing that's happening is we have 11 inbound students that will have a display about their countries. So it's a really great way for you to talk to the kids who are here in our district from countries around the world. And the idea is they practice not only their English, but their ambassador skills and hopefully trying to convince you to come to my country. So it's a really great way for you to interview. When you're not being interviewed yourself, you'll be able to travel around the world to these country displays and talk to those students. And that might just open your eyes to a possibility of a country that you hadn't thought of. So that's something else to look forward to on that morning. And I think it's clear, but your parents will be involved in the interview as well. Do you want to describe how that happens, Kirk? Because I'm not sure everybody understands that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to give too much away, but what we're trying to figure out is that first of all, that exchange is something you want and not that mom and dad want for you. We do have people that come into the program where, you know, my dad, Ross, thinks that I should go and learn and it'll make me a confident, better person. And I have no desire to leave the country and we don't want that. So part of the interview process is making sure that we know that it's my idea to go on exchange and not my dad or my mom's. So we do talk to you separately so that we can kind of figure out if there's any discrepancies between that. And I think, I don't know that I want to say too much more, but yeah, we are trying to make sure that, you know, and that your parents support you, that they're not going, well, if I have to let my daughter go, I'll do it, but I'll be kicking and screaming and I'm going to text her 14 times a day. And no, we want a parent that understands that in order to be successful on this exchange, you can't be in contact with your child the whole time because you're going to ruin their experience, right? And as we always say, especially you'll hear this a lot once we start training you, if your mind is somewhere else, it doesn't matter where your physical body is, you are where your mind is. So you might be in Venezuela, or you might be in Brazil, or you might be in Japan. But if you're constantly texting and messaging and FaceTiming people back home, then your brain is in Canada, you might as well be in Canada, right? So right from the get-go, early on, we're saying to parents and guardians, give them space, right? And we're saying to you folks as outbound students, don't contact your mom and dad when there's problems or when you're sad or when you're homesick. We give you lots of resources and lots of people to contact if you're struggling, if you have questions and things like that. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Sue. That's a good point. Yeah. The inbounds are a lot of fun. They're an energetic group. So, okay. So I'm not seeing any new questions. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to just go over some basic things that I tend to see a lot of when I get the applications, kind of mistakes that I see a lot of, just to help you save maybe some time and effort. Okay. So one of the first things is you need to order your birth certificate if you haven't already. Okay. Who hasn't yet ordered a birth certificate? Put your hand up if you haven't yet ordered it. Okay, okay, Ava, good. So this is going to be especially helpful to you, but to everyone who's already ordered it as well, this is still helpful. I am going to share my screen again just so I can show you something. This does get mixed up. Some people say, oh, I have my birth certificate. My mom or my dad keep it in the closet. I know where it is. What your mom or dad probably have is this guy here. Okay, and this is just for Ontario. This guy here. This one we cannot accept. The birth certificate you submit to us has to have your parents' names on it. As you can see with this one, this is kind of an older one, but it doesn't have mom and dad's name on it. So we can either accept this older form, which is called a certified copy of birth registration, or what's called the birth certificate with parental information. Most of you are pretty young, so you're probably going to have one of these. Maybe some of you will have this, but basically if it doesn't have mom and dad's name on it, we can't accept it. All right, so before you submit it to me, double check that it lists your parents' names. I can work with that. If it doesn't have your parents' names, I can't accept it. All right. As I mentioned, you don't need to mail that to me. You just need to scan a copy of it to me. Okay, that's the first little tidbit. Second, so let's now go through, I'm going to quickly recap the process, kind of what the application looks like, and then we'll jump into the smaller parts a little bit. Stop me along the way or pop a question in the chat if you have any questions. So there's basically two parts to the application. You have your online application, which has 3 subparts. And then you have what's called the supplemental forms of documents. Consequently, it also has, or coincidentally, it also has 3 subparts. So on the online application, the first part is the main application. That's the one that you received the link to from me that said, hey, click here to start your application. And it asks you about your personal contact info, your parents' contact info, what their job is, provide your parents' letter, your photos. That's the main online application. There's 2 other pieces to the online application. None of you have received it yet because I haven't sent any to any of you yet. And it's the country selection and it's the school reference. So don't panic if you're going, I haven't seen that yet. I don't know what that is. You don't have it yet. And the reason is that I don't send it to you until I get this. So you first submit that 10-part, my personal information, my parents' info, my photos, all that. When I get that, review it, make sure it's perfect. Then I send you the links for these 2 pieces. Okay. So that's why you got to work to get this done quick, because then I can get you the other 2 pieces. Okay, then you've got your supplemental forms and documents. That's first part is the supplemental forms. So that was the medical, the dental, okay, what's called the endorsement, and the last part is the rules. So there's 4 pages of like rules and attestations and all that. That's what that part is. The supplemental documents is your passport, birth certificate, transcripts. Okay, so your supplemental documents is your passport, your certificate, and your transcripts. And then the host family referral form is that last piece. And that's the one that I believe Charlize was asking about where, do I have to, do these people have to commit to it? That's that form. Do they have to commit to being a host family? Okay, I see there's a chat message. Let me see. Yeah, for sure. I am going to send out the recording. So even if you were on this, you'll still get an email with the link to the recording. So yes, that's no problem. Okay. So let's do some general stuff, and then we'll dive into the more specific parts. So these things apply to the vast majority of the application, if not all of it. First part, type as much of it as you can. If it can be typed, if there's a form field and it can be typed, type it. We prefer no handwritten stuff except for signatures and dates. There is maybe the odd place where we'll make an exception, but we really hope that every box is checked digitally and every form is filled in electronically. So type as much as you can. Okay. Your name. We like to see last names capitalized. And that's just because, again, it's going all around the world and it's not always easy, depending on where you're from or what languages you speak, to tell what someone's first name is versus their last name. So it makes it really easy if you just capitalize your last name. So as you can see, if your name were, maybe you've heard this name before, Ariana Grande, right? If you were her, you would capitalize the whole word Grande, and then Ariana Marie would be lowercase. Okay. And that is everywhere. Other people's family names. So when you're listing your mom and dad, when you're listing your YEO, you don't have to do that. However, I would recommend just do it for all last names. It just makes it easier for yourself to just always think last name capitalized, or rather not capitalized, but all caps. Okay. All right. Full legal name. That's the same name on your passport. If you don't have a passport, it's the same name on your birth certificate. So if you've got middle names, those should be included on there as well. All right. The next one that causes some grief is the dates. Some of you may be used to using what's usually considered the American date format, where the month starts. So it's month, day, year. They will not accept that on this application. It needs to be chronological: year, then month, then day. So that means that if you wanted to talk about December 31st, 2007, you'd have to put the year, which is 2007, the month, which is 12, it's the 12th month of the year, December, and the day is the 31st. If you put 12/31, which is a very American, a lot of Americans would put it that way, month, day, year, not correct. If you write it out, not correct. If you write it out this way, not correct. Don't panic too much. The one thing I'll say is, even your dentist and your doctor and all that, we ask that everybody use the right date format. If your dentist doesn't pay attention and they write the wrong date format, send it to me first and let me know. I don't want you to have to go back to those people necessarily just to change the format of the date. There's usually ways we can work around it, but by and large, every date on there should be year, month, day. All right. And all numbers as opposed to words. Make sense? Can I get a thumbs up if we're good for that? You can see what I mean by they're picky on this stuff, right? And I'm being picky with you, so it causes you less work down the road. Okay. Next, let's keep going down here. On the supplemental forms, your phone number should always start with a +1. That's because it's going to around the world. So you want it to have an international country code, and that is +1. So +1 555 555 5555. So don't put just your normal, 519 and then your number. You're going to put a +1 almost everywhere on the supplemental forms. The online application, you don't need to worry about it. There's another important one. Anywhere where it asks for a phone number, if you don't have that phone number, fill in the number that you do have. So who has a cell phone? Okay. Who has a home phone? Okay. Not many of you have a home phone anymore, but what that means is if it asks for a home phone and you don't have that, put the cell phone number for that same place. So if it's your family home and they are asking for a home phone number and you don't have that, put your mom or dad's cell phone number. And the same way, if you don't have a cell phone, but you have a home phone, put the home phone number in the cell phone field. Do not leave any of those fields blank. Do not put NA, don't put none, put a phone number in it. Okay, if it asks for a business number and the person says, I don't have a business number, I have a cell phone, put their cell phone number. In most cases, what you'll end up doing is it'll be home, cell, business, and all three will be the same number. And it's probably because it's their cell phone number, because lots of people don't have home phone nowadays, and lots of people don't have business numbers because it's just their cell phone. But don't leave it blank. Put a number. Okay. I think that makes sense. The email address I don't think is a problem because I haven't seen any email addresses that worry me. Blank fields anywhere on the forms. Don't leave it blank. If it doesn't pertain to you, if it asks for dietary restrictions and you don't have any, that's great. Put none or NA. Don't leave it blank. The problem is this: if you leave it blank, my head goes, did they forget? Did they miss that field? Did they not fill it in? If you put NA, I know that it means I saw it and it doesn't apply to me. I don't need to worry about it. All right. So basically anywhere you can think of where it asks you to fill something in, if you don't have anything for that, okay, except for the phone numbers, of course, right? Anything else you put NA. So dietary restrictions, NA. Oh, I didn't get that vaccine, NA. Oh, I didn't, whatever, NA, right? I don't have a prescription for my eyeglasses, NA, okay, or none, either way, but just make sure it doesn't stay blank. All right. I think this one is pretty straightforward. Don't staple the application when it's all done. Just use a nice little paper clip, because that does get sent all over and it gets photocopied and stuff. So just don't staple any part of the application. Just leave it loose. Okay, the next one, signatures in blue ink. This one has been changing over time. It used to be very, very strict that every signature had to be in blue ink because they wanted to make sure it wasn't photocopied or false. So everything had to be in blue. They're becoming much more lenient. However, just to save yourself a headache, I would suggest try to sign every signature in blue ink anyway, because there are still a couple of countries that are picky on it. I wish I could tell you which ones and when and why, but I can't. It just depends. Sometimes Japan decides blue ink is important. Other times it's another one. So instead, just try as much as possible, sign all your signatures in a blue ink, and it will save the headache. So what I suggest is buy a 10 pack of blue pens and have one on you wherever you go. Keep a couple in the car, so when you go to get your doctor to sign, you can whip out your blue pen and say, no, put your pen down. You're going to sign with this one instead. Okay. They are becoming more lenient. So if the doctor ends up signing in black ink, for the most part, they're going to let it slide, unless it's one of those countries where they end up going, no, we require blue ink for all signatures. Okay. When to sign. This one kind of confuses people. So I want you to listen to what I'm going to say and then let me know if it doesn't make sense. Here's what I want you to do for the supplemental forms. I want you to print out 2 copies. Okay, 2 full copies of the forms. And I want you to fill those forms out identically. So of course you type it all up, right? Type up as much of it as you can, print those out. Okay. And then what you're going to do is when you get signatures on those, you're going to get 2 sets of original signatures. So Hannah goes to her dentist, right? She types up as much of it as she can. The dentist goes and she does, so she types up as much as she can. Okay. And then it's time to get it signed. All right. Once it's all typed, she actually prints 2 copies of that form and takes both copies to the dentist, and the dentist signs both copies. So what I'm saying is that you don't get 1 copy signed and then make a photocopy of that. Both signatures need to be original signatures. Does that make sense to everybody? Can I get a thumbs up if that makes sense? Feel free to say something if it doesn't. That's okay. I know it can sometimes get confusing. Okay. Because that can throw people, it often does throw people off. They end up making a photocopy and I say, no, I need 2 original copies. Okay. The reason for that is a couple things. I usually keep a copy with me because often the countries will, not often, sometimes the countries will request paper copies, and so I can provide a paper copy, okay? Sometimes they request a paper copy and they lose it. It gets lost in transit. So that way you would have to go and get all your paperwork redone immediately. Instead, this way we already have an automatic backup copy that we know is perfect and ready to go, and we can just ship it off right away. So that's why we have 2 original paper copies of the supplemental forms. All righty. Any questions on that? The one thing you might want to do with your doctor, who has anybody already had their doctor's appointment? Okay, so Katie, you've already done that. So this might not be applicable, but just in case, what you can do for your doctor's thing, type up as much of it as you can beforehand. Like if you know your immunization record, go ahead and type that up in advance. A lot of times that's now available online and stuff. So that's great if you can do that. Same with like if you know your weight and all that, although they might probably want to weigh you right then and there. So I might not do that, but fill out as much of it as you can in advance. Bring 1 printed copy to the doctor because they're going to fill it all out usually by hand. They're going to use their little chicken scratch, right? Then you go home, you type all of it up, take all of their notes and check marks and everything, and you type it up really nice and neatly. You print 2 copies of that, and that's what you bring back and you say, please sign these 2 original copies. Okay, that's usually the best way to go about it. I believe that's the same way I have it described here in the instructions, but that's what I would suggest. Print 1 copy, let them fill it out, let them shake it up and do all that stuff. Keep it because you never know if you might need to go back and refer, but then type all of it up, bring those 2 typed copies and ask them to sign it. Okay. All right, good. Let's keep moving on. So, the main application, biggest thing there is that as you're going through it, here's the stuff to be aware of, okay? We talked about your full legal name, same with your parents' full legal name. So whatever's on your parents' passports, including middle names, should be what's on the form for your parents' legal names. Your emergency contact it needs to be somebody who doesn't live with you. So if you have an older brother or sister that lives at home, that's great. I'm sure they're responsible, but that's not the person that can be your emergency contact. So an aunt, an uncle, a family friend, that's who your emergency contact needs to be. And you'll notice it asks for emergency contact both on this online form as well as in your supplemental forms, okay? That needs to be the same person. So if you picked Aunt Sue is your emergency contact both for this spot and the supplemental forms, same place. Okay, next thing, the student and parent letters to the host. I want you to remember, people reading this are not English speakers, usually not native English speakers. So saying things like, yeah, they kicked the can. As you can imagine, if you don't speak English as your first language, you're like, why do they kick cans in Canada? Why are they going around kicking? Who's kicking a can? Is that a sport they play over there? What's going on? Avoid things that might be a little bit difficult to understand. So try to speak in sort of literal, plain terms. Okay, that's the first part. Second part, this application is kind of like your first impression to your host club and your host family. So if Heather writes a letter that goes, my name is Heather and I like baseball and I wake up every morning at 6:05 and then I go pee. And then after I go pee, I brush my teeth. And then after I brush my teeth, I go to school. And then I go to school you can imagine that host family is like, wow, riveting, cool. I really get to know what Heather's all about. No, scratch that. Make me something that I want to read. Write me something interesting to read. Who are you? Why do you want to go on exchange? What are you excited about? You'll notice there are prompts there that ask you about what is your daily life like? What's a day in your life look like? You know, what do you do? Yes, go ahead and answer those, but I don't need a minute-by-minute breakdown of what you do. I need I go to school around 7, I have 5 courses. Here's the courses I'm taking. I really like geography because I love learning about the different parts of the world and what climate change is doing. I'm home by about 3 and then I go home and pet my cats for half an hour. By the way, I love my pets. They're so cool. You know, that's the kind of stuff that they're reading. Oh, she likes pets. She really likes geography. That's great. Oh, she lives out in the country. That's interesting to know. Things like that are what's going to make them go, cool. Not, I have this class from this time to this time, and then I have an 8-minute break, during which time I usually go to my locker. Sometimes people write letters that just kind of answer every single question and tick every box, and they're really boring to read. And so they're going to be really boring to a potential host family to read. So it's your first impression. Try to make it a little bit exciting and fun and really, you know, let them get to know you a bit.
This is one of those things that your YEO can help you out with.
Yes.
Or a parent.
Yeah. That's right. And then the same thing with the parent letter. I mean, we're not saying you have to try and sell your son or daughter, like they are who they are, and that's great. But again, don't just give us like, I love my daughter unconditionally. There's nothing I wouldn't do for her. We know that. You're her parent. We get it. You're a good parent. You know, that's cool. But just help the parent understand, here's what you'd want to know about my son or daughter, my child hosting them. This is who they are. All right. That's really what it's about. Sometimes people feel the need to sort of sell their child. You know, they are the best person in the world. You know, we know they're great, but we also know they're not perfect. I mean, who would sit here and say their child's perfect and that there's no problems ever living with them and they never argue back or anything like that? If you put your hand up, you're a liar, and I know it. Just kidding. But what we know is that, you know, there might be something that's not so great about living with them. We might know that, you know, they have weird quirks or fun stuff like that. So what would a host family kind of go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. You know, oh, this might be an interesting thing about how they'll integrate to our family, or this might be something we'll work on together. So just be open and honest about that parent's letter. Okay. All right. There is I believe, I can't get confirmation on this yet, but I believe it's a 5,000 character limit on the letter. So if you take the letter and you copy and paste it into Word, Word can tell you how many characters it is. It's not words, 5,000 characters. So if it's over 5,000 characters, it's not going to let you, it's going to cut it off, in fact. And I'm just going to see a letter that's chopped off and I'm going to go, oh, this looks incomplete. So make sure it's within 5,000 characters. Okay. Photos, next big one I have a bit of an issue with sometimes. The photo, that's that photo of you that they want. It's not you being like, oh my God, selfie mania. And it's not like the dark, cool, sexy angle where I just got my haircut, so I want to cover one of my eyes. They don't want that. They want to see you, right? So kind of actually what I'm doing right now, this is kind of perfect. Right there, kind of around here. Kind of think of your school photo, right? You're not doing this in your school photo. You're not doing this in your school photo. You're not like hiding in your school photo. You don't have a hoodie on over your head in your school photo. I mean, maybe some of you do, but most of the time you're kind of standing straight towards the camera. We can see clearly who you are. We can see what color is your hair. We can see if you have glasses. That's what we're looking for. This is not the time to get artistic and creative. This is the time to just let us see who you are. Make sure it's nice and bright. Okay. Sound good?
This is the picture that your host family is going to be hanging on to when they meet you at the airport.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So make sure it actually looks like you too. Make sure it's a recent photo. All right. Okay. The other part is on, yeah, Grace, go ahead.
I just have a question about like photos of our houses and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So, my parents, they live in separate houses. Do you want a photo of each house or just one of them, like the one that I'm putting for information down? Like
So
I'm putting
that's
like my mom's address. I
Yep.
put my mom's address down for everything, but I just want to know if you want just my mom's house photo or my dad's as well.
So generally what I say, there's two ways I can answer this, and I'll answer it both. The first one is I say, whichever photo you say is home for you. So if you spend 95% of your time at your mom's house, that's kind of like, that's to me is home, put your mom's house, okay? If you spend 50-50 and you feel equally at home in both, then you can absolutely get two photos in one, like do a collage online and just do like put two photos into one. Make sure they're nice, as big as possible, because you can imagine when you take that space and shrink it down to two photos, it's going to be a little harder to see. But you could put both in the photo as well. That's fine. Okay. And just make sure when you do the description for that photo that you explain what we're looking at. So my mom's house is on top and my dad's house is on the bottom, or whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And so for those other photos, the one that is something important to you and your special interest, okay, make sure they're easy to see. I had someone, I forget who it was, someone did like skiing or something, and they posted this really nice photo, but you couldn't even see the skis. It was clearly a winter photo, but I was like, I had to write back and go, are you skating? Is it snowboarding? Do you just like winter? Like, I don't know what this is, because the photo they uploaded cut them off at about the waist. So if your special thing, make sure your special thing or something important to you is included in that photo and easy to see. Unfortunately, this gets passed to them usually on paper, and it's not very big. It's about maybe 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters is the picture size. So you got to think to yourself, if I were to shrink it down to that size, am I going to be able to pretty easily tell what I'm looking at, or is it going to be really hard? All right. And if it is hard, I'll write back before I accept your application. I'm going to say, I can't tell what this is. You need to upload something different. Okay. If it's the other thing I would say is if it's your family, some people end up posting like their extended family. I think that's really cute. And I'm also really close to my extended family, but the problem is that it ends up being like little dots, all the heads, and I can't, so try to post just your immediate family so that, you know, in the picture of 3 or 4 people, we can kind of tell who's who and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. Country selection. I'm not too worried about that yet, but I'll just go through a couple quick things. You're going to rank your top 12 countries that you want to go to. Minimum top 12. You can pick more than that, but the minimum that we ask you to pick is 12. Then the other thing you'll do is you'll pick countries that you refuse to go to. Now, I actually think you're best off not doing this unless you have a really darn good reason. So if you say, I identify as LGBT, and I don't want to go to this country because I've heard that maybe not great things happen to people who identify as LGBT, and I'm a little bit afraid of that, so I'm going to put that on my refuse list. That to me is a pretty valid reason, assuming you're not just hearing necessarily from the news, but maybe some more informed stuff. If it's like, well, I heard that Hungary isn't really pretty in October, so I don't want to go to Hungary. That is not a good reason to put refuse on your list. That's not acceptable, okay? And here's the reason that you want to be careful with that. If you put too many refuses, what can happen is we can't find a place for you. Because if it doesn't fit with the countries you selected for whatever reason, maybe your grades aren't where they need to be, or the placement just doesn't work, what we start going to are the countries that you didn't necessarily rank, but you left open, because we consider that means you're okay with at least getting placed in those potentially. We do our best to get you in one of those top 12, but we can't guarantee that. So if you put your top 12, then you refuse every other country. If we can't place you in your top 12, you're not going on exchange. Okay. So if you think you need to put refuse on for a country, I think it's worth talking to your YEO or talking to me first and being like, hey, I'm thinking about putting this on my refuse list. What do you think? Okay. Because the cool thing is that we work with Rotarians on the ground in each one of these countries we do exchange with. So if you say, you know, I identify as LGBT and I've heard of some pretty nasty stuff happening to people like that in this country, what's the real word on the street? We can go to those Rotary clubs and those Rotary districts and say, what's it really like for a kid that identifies as LGBT? Is it really dangerous? Do they have anything to worry about? And they can let us know, yeah, you know, sentiment towards those people isn't great right now. Or no, they're fine. Don't worry. You're just seeing a stupid story on the news about one event that happened, and that stuff happens in every country. You know, we can help you understand whether these are things to be legitimately concerned about, okay? Or whether this is just something that's maybe come up in the news and it's really not a big issue. So I'm not saying you can't put a country on the refuse list, but I just want you to think carefully about it before you do it. Can I get a thumbs up if that makes sense? Okay, cool. And the other part is, of course, we're wanting people who want to go on an exchange experience. We don't want people that say, I want to go to Italy and learn Italian and be a fashion designer, and that's been my dream all my life. So the only country I want to go to is Italy. And if I don't get to go to Italy, I don't want to go on exchange. Then this program isn't for you, because we can't guarantee that you're going to get to go to a specific country. We can't even necessarily guarantee you're going to get to go to a specific language or a specific continent. So we want people that are open about the experience of living with a host family, learning a new language, living in a different country. And when you got that open-mindedness, usually you don't end up refusing too many countries, because you kind of go, hey, send me anywhere. I just want to go live abroad for a year and get that experience. All right. And as a little side note story, soon after I'd come back from exchange, we had someone who was a guest speaker at a conference. They got their last choice. And at the time, you used to choose 26 countries. They got their 26th choice. So when she started speaking, she said, as you can imagine, when I popped number 26 in there, I wasn't even really thinking about what country. I had no desire to go there, because I just never thought I would get my 26th choice. Like, I couldn't believe it. She goes, and I was so upset when I found out that I got my 26th choice. And she goes, now I'm back from exchange. I wouldn't change a thing. I had the best year of my life, right? So you will find that if you're open to the experience, you'll have an incredible exchange no matter where you go. It's not about the specific language or the specific culture. It's about being open-minded to learning new things, okay? So that's my little plug. I know we stepped away a little bit from the application, but I just really want people to be careful about that refuse button, because it really can limit your choices and your possibilities on exchange, okay? All right, any country selection questions? I did see one person had a question in the chat. And so yes, for the one person that has submitted their application, I still need to review your application, which I'll do this week. And then I will get you your link to do your country ranking. And I should mention your school referral form and your country ranking. Both of those will be sent via a link, just like the original application was as well. It'll be, you'll get the link that says click here to access it, and then you'll log into your account and you'll be good to go. Grace, yeah.
With like the what's the word? Sorry. The confrontation going on in like throughout Europe and stuff, near Poland, Ukraine and stuff. Are there any like other safety measures going in with those countries, if those are like the ones that we get to go to? Are there like extra safety measures with those?
Yeah, so I can tell you right now, there's no one going to Ukraine, no one going to Poland this year at all. So those aren't even options. So you don't have to worry about those. If there's any conflict or anything like that that's kind of brewing or potentially going on before your exchange, we work through all of that with you, and we decide whether it's still safe for you to go. We work through all of that once we know your country choice and any potential situations. We're very careful about that, and we're communicating with our Rotary partners in those countries to know, hey, is this still safe? What should they know? What should they be thinking about? Are there any dangers about them going on exchange still? And we work with them that way. So by no means are we going, hey, it's your fault you picked Ukraine, good luck. No, we're going, okay, we're either going to change your country altogether, or we're going to make sure that if you are going to a certain country that you're going to be safe.
Okay. Thank
Good
you.
question though. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. School reference, quick note about that. You're going to submit your main application. I'm going to send you the link to your school reference. That link is not to actually do the reference. The link that you're going to click is to provide either a teacher or a guidance counselor or a vice principal or a principal's name and email address. So you're going to click the link. You're going to put in whoever's information you've asked for to provide a reference for you. And then they're going to get a link that says, hey, Heather's looking for a reference. Can you please click here to complete it? So here's what you do. Right now, I want you to go and ask whoever that teacher or guidance counselor or VP is, I'd like you to be a reference for me. Would you mind doing that for me for the Rotary Youth Exchange? It takes 5 or 6 minutes to do. You'll get an email. Are you okay with that? If they say yes, get their email address. And then when you have their email, once I send you the link to this part of the application, you're already ready to go. You can click the link, you fill in their name, their email address, you hit send. They're going to get a link saying, please fill out this application for Heather. Okay, it only takes them 5 or 6 minutes. It's quite straightforward. It does sometimes go to their spam. So if you get the link from me, you fill in your teacher or your guidance counselor's information and you hit send, check in with them the next day. Hey, by the way, I just wanted to let you know that I sent you the link to complete that reference. Okay, just double check they got it. And teachers are busy people. So even if they did get it, it might be a couple of days before they have time to complete it. So just nag, but politely. So if it's been, let them know the day you send it. And then maybe if it's been a few days and you're still not sure, just double check with them. Hey, did you have a chance to fill that out? Okay. So just check in with them so that you know it got submitted. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, perfect. Okay, on to the supplemental forms. This is the part that I really want you to go over with a fine-tooth comb, especially when you're reading. It's very monotonous. It's very pedantic, okay? It says, is your birthday correct? Is it in the correct format? Did you answer all of these questions? We're not going to go through those now, but what you can do is when you're done and you're filling out your medical history, print this off and then literally go through each thing I'm asking you to look through and go, check, I did that, check, I did that, check, I did that. And I can guarantee if you do that, your application will be almost completely error-free. You're going to breeze through this process, all right? But if you try to sort of half read this stuff and half pay attention to it, you're going to run into bumps and problems. So again, with all of this stuff, I'm not going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but I'm just going to quickly try to look for stuff that might stick out. One of the things, for example, is on your supplemental application with your doctor form, you'll notice there's a thing that says physician signature and there's no line. And that throws off some of the doctors because they think because there's no line or they just don't notice it because there's no line, they miss signing it. The medical form is 3 pages. So you'll see it says page 1 of 3. You go to the next page, it says page 2 of 3, page 3 of 3. And what I want to point out is that the doctor has to sign all 3 pages, page 1, okay, page 2, and then in page 3, they sign, where am I looking? Here. So they need to sign all 3 pages. And that is one of those things that if it doesn't have a signature on all 3 pages, unfortunately, you'll have to go back. And then another thing is because it's shoved down to the bottom of the page, unfortunately, just make sure when you scan it to me that that got picked up in the scan. All right. Okay. We talked about putting NA or none in any boxes that are empty. That includes, I know it's monotonous, I know it's a lot, but that includes all of these fun ones here. So if you got your 3rd dose of diphtheria and nothing else, NA, 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 NA. Okay, you got your, 2nd tetanus shot, and you don't need any after that, NA, 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 NA. You're going to get really good at copying and pasting. Okay, so basically if a box is empty, it should have an NA in it if it's not applicable. Okay, next one I wanted to talk about is your, where is it? Oh, this is actually, sorry, I'm going to jump back a little bit because this isn't on this form necessarily, but it's on your main application. It talks about dietary restrictions. If you have dietary restrictions, don't just put vegetarian or celiac or vegan. Elaborate a bit. And what I mean by that is, are you a vegetarian who sometimes eats meat? Are you a vegetarian who sometimes eats fish? Are you a vegan but you'll eat cheese? Be very specific about what that looks like, because that information has to go to your potential host family and they have to decide, am I capable of hosting this student? Okay, so we had a student that put celiac, but it wasn't just, celiac's already serious enough, but this was a student that they eat any gluten at all and they are out of commission, sick to their stomach, diarrhea for at least a couple of days. That's very different than someone that might say, gluten sensitivity, right? We don't want to put her in a family that goes, well, we don't know how to cook gluten, but we'll try our best. We needed a family that was going to be like, yes, we will pay attention to this. We know what we're doing here. So with any kind of food sensitivities or anything like that, if you say you're allergic to cats, are you deathly allergic, like a day around a cat and you're going to be closed right up? Or is it kind of like, yeah, you'll get a little bit of sniffles, but you'll be fine. Okay, so anything that's health related, try to provide lots and lots of detail. Think for parents on this call, think if you were to accept someone and they said allergic to cats, you'd probably want to know, well, how allergic are they, right? They're allergic to latex. Well, okay, what might that mean for the day-to-day? Oh, they're celiac. Well, what do I need to think about as a parent potentially cooking for this student? What does that look like in the day-to-day? Okay, so I want you to think about more detail is usually better. Okay. Okay, I'm going to jump back down now. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump around there, but I wanted to make sure I touched on that. Last couple things. Dental health is usually pretty straightforward. So on your section E, okay, I'm going to skip to there now. And your section G, okay, so the section E is this one here. It's called your sponsor, or your endorsement from your sponsor club. Your sponsor club is your club here in Canada. it mentions witness name, sponsor, Rotary Club member signature. Okay. Can you guys see that, or is that too small? Should I make that bigger? What do you think? Thumbs up if you want it bigger. Okay, I'll make it a little bit bigger here. So you'll see here, the form is section E of the supplemental forms, and you'll see it says witness name. Okay, then if I go to the next pages, it does the same thing. Witnessed in the presence of da 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 da. What it means for some of you younger people that don't have a lot of experience with witnessing or signatures, witnessed means that I saw you do it. So what that's supposed to mean is that you went to, or someone came to your house from the Rotary Club and they watched you and your parents sign that form. So they can say, yep, I know that it was Grace that signed that form. What that means is that the signature and date that they put, the date should be the same as what you put, because they should have watched you do it. So it wouldn't make sense if you put October 1st and they put October 2nd, because it's gonna be like, well, how did they watch you do it if you did it a day apart? Right? So the dates here should be the same dates, because you should have all been signing it together because they were supposed to watch you sign it. Does that make sense? Okay. It's a smaller thing. Most people don't mess it up, but the odd person does. I'm like, oh, it's a different date. That kind of looks sketchy, because now it's like, did they actually witness it or not? Okay. All right, we're almost done. What else did we want to say here? I think that's pretty much good for that. We talked about the birth certificate, the passport we talked about, the transcripts. You need to have 2 years worth of transcripts. If you're in grade 10, that means you got to get your grade 9 transcript and your grade 8 report card. All right. If you're in grade 11, we can take your grade 10 and grade 9 transcript from your high school. That's great. If you're in grade 9, we would need your grade 8 and grade 7 report cards. Okay. Your report cards, this talks about it needs to be embossed and it needs to have the seal and yada, yada. Your report cards for grades 7 and 8 do not need that, because you're not going to be able to get that anyway. They're just your report card that you brought home to your parents on the last day of school kind of thing. Your transcript from your high school needs to be the official embossed one or the sealed one. Okay. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to touch on. Just going to take a quick look. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing now so we can all see each other again. And Linda, you got a question for us?
Yeah, I just had a question for the report card, like the grade 8 report card. Do you need 2 copies of that signed with blue ink?
No, that one we actually don't need signed at all. That one you only ever scan to me. Same with, so the report card or transcripts, the passport and the birth certificate, you never have to send to me physically. You just scan copies to me. Okay. And those don't get signed by anyone. It's just whatever the high school gives you as like your embossed or your official transcript, that will already have what it needs to have on it. And your report card should have, I believe, the principal's signature on it, but that's fine the way it is. Whatever your son or daughter brought home on their last day of school, you know, a grade 8, that's the report card we're looking for.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, it has been almost an hour and 15 minutes of grueling attention to detail stuff. I know this can take a lot out of you. So I'm going to stop there. I think that's good for now. Do we have any final questions or concerns or anything? How's everyone feeling? Thumbs up if you're still feeling all right about this. You don't want to jump ship. Good, good, good. All right. That's exciting. Yes, I see Stella, you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question there?
Yeah, can you send me a letter to get her passport renewed early?
Yep, yeah, I can do that. Yep, and that's for Stella, right?
That's for Stella. Her passport expires July 2025.
Yeah, I would need that too. Mine also expires in the spring.
Okay. Sure. So that was for Stella and for Ava. I can do that. All right. Any other, I see someone saying, sorry, let me see here. Medical history question 8 states if exam not done, leave blank. Let me just get that open there. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're right. That is a good example. Let me pop that up here. So I'm going to share my screen. So the question was on part 8, it says, where does it say leave blank? I do remember seeing that there. Yeah. So what it's saying here is for the today's examination, show any abnormal findings for, okay. it's not uncommon, but some doctors won't do the rectal exam and they won't do the, I believe there's genitalia. Okay. If they don't do that, don't check yes and don't check no. That's the one that you would leave blank, because if you check yes, then it's assumed it's been done and everything's good. If you check no, okay, then it's been done and something was found. So we don't want you to check that if it wasn't done. So if it hasn't been done, don't check it off. Okay. So if they say no, for whatever reason, you don't get those things checked, leave them blank. Thank you for that question. That's a great question. There's some attention to detail right there. That's good. Go, Mom. All right. Any other questions? All right. Everyone's still feeling excited? Thumbs up if you're still excited about this whole process. Good, good. Okay, that's exciting. Hopefully this didn't discourage you. It's really meant to help simplify the process because it's already complex enough. So we do this to kind of say, hey, we can work on it together. And probably if one of you has a question, you probably all have a similar question. So with that, I'm going to let you all go. We're going to be sending you information. Oh, Sue's popped it right in there. We're going to be sending you information about the interviews. Thank you very much, Sue. But in the meantime, just keep working on your application. Talk to your YEO if you have questions. Talk to me if you have questions. We are here to help you and we want you to be successful. And like I said, text or email or whatever you need to do to get those questions answered. And we'll get through it together. All right. All right. Have a great night, everybody. And I'll be sending the link to the application, to the recording afterward as well.